Hey everybody, my name is Kevin Badway, and I just got through watching a video of a police officer who's on the verge of losing his job. Why? Because this police officer took it upon himself to post a video, and you may have seen it, where he kind of sharing his bit of information about the reality of the coronavirus and wearing a mask and so forth and so on in his interaction with whatever. And whatever the case is, ultimately, what seemed like a quality, good PSA, eventually his superiors or their superiors and through the chain of command basically ended up telling him after his video received over 400,000 views that he needed to pull it. I find this very intriguing and interesting that when someone tries to post information that you need to know about, that is a benefit to your health and well-being, that is truth related and supported by facts, that the powers that be don't want you to know these things. And so what appears to be a good cop, and trust me, I know there's not a lot of good ones out there, but there are some good ones. And this one here, regardless of color, creed, religion, whatever your lifestyle is, or politics or beliefs, he's sharing with you what he knows to be the truth, and knew that it might cost him his job. He probably was hoping that it wouldn't, but he had some kind of moral principles that he believed in, and he wanted to share with you, and now he's probably going to lose his job. And he refuses to this day to take it down. Because obviously if he took it down, he could probably keep his job, probably get a little reprimand, and all's well that ends well. But then he loses a bit of himself. He loses a bit of his morality, his code of ethics. And then he doesn't trust the Constitution anymore. Because one of the things he stated clearly in his video that he believes and he supports, when he became a police officer, he believed to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, because it meant something to him. The rights that you have as a public citizen mean something to him, and it should mean something to all of us. If our forefathers were here today, they would be appalled at the way the government has run this country into the ground, taking away our individual rights, trying to take away our constitutional rights, your ability to be able to express yourself freely and openly, to be able to protect yourself against all the enemies, foreign and domestic. You know, I know people out there will say, well, you shouldn't have an automatic weapon. Our forefathers were like, whatever the government has, whatever your government has, you should be able to have the same kind of weapons they have, because how else would you be able to retaliate against a tyrannical government if you couldn't do that? Which is part of the reason why they're trying to take your rights of gun ownership, lessen it, so that way when they decide to impose their will against you, it's basically Davy against Goliath, but not all of us are David. And we're not going to be able to defeat Goliath with a slingshot. But that's exactly what it's going to be like for those of you who might have a pistol or a handgun or a .22 rifle, and you're going up against people who have full body armor and have tanks and automatic weapons and tasers and batons and grenades and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But this isn't about you having to defend your rights as an American citizen. That's something for a totally different video. It's just that this police officer who believes in the Constitution, who believes in your rights, who acknowledges your right to be able to do this, that, and the other, also understands that you're being controlled and manipulated with false information being put out there through various forms of media, high up in the government. It's interesting why you, the people, and maybe it's not you or you, but maybe it's you and you, that you tend to put your faith in what you see on CNN and C-SPAN and ABC and Fox and whatever, or TMZ. A lot of you share your information or get your information through Wikipedia, Google, Instagram, or Facebook. A lot of you don't even bother to research the information that you come across or that you shared or reposted or retweeted, because if it taps into what you in your core believe, that's all that matters. Because many of you don't want to think outside the box, because outside the box is scary. Scarier than what's inside the box. And the powers that be that control the media control you who are trapped in this box. God gave you a brain for a reason. To think, to rationalize, to think about things, to use wisdom, discernment. But many of you don't use that. When I was a kid, my mom taught me, never believe what you read and only half of what you see. Well, we now live in a day and age where we can't even believe what we see, because the technology is so advanced that everything can be photoshopped. Majority of the pictures that you see, whether it be on Instagram or whatever that people are sharing, have been doctored in some form or fashion, whether it be change the tint or whether we, wipe away the blemishes on our skin, we soften our pictures or what have you to make ourselves look good or look better, or the pictures that we take of nature, we use different filters to bring out the more blue sky or to do that or whatever, But it's got to the point to where now if you go to like YouTube and you type in deep fakes and you see how they are able to take digital images of a person, of let's say like one actor, and put them on a total different actor, and you would think, whoa, is that Jim Carrey playing, doing a remake of The Shining, And you're like, no. But it looks like it is, and it looks so flawless, you can't help but think that that's Jim Carrey doing an impersonation of Jack Nicholson in The Shining, but it's not. And for those who've never seen The Shining, would never know, unless it was told to you in the credits, this is a fake, this is a deep fake. The original is, Jack Nicholson in The Shining, and we superimposed, Jim Carrey's face over Jack Nicholson. But if you didn't know that, you would not be able to, you would know. That's how good the technology has gotten. But yet a lot of you out there put your faith in what they're showing you on TV and what they're showing you in the news, and it creates this conflict between you and I and us as a whole, because we draw boundaries, we draw our lines. And if it's a racial issue, black people are automatically going to throw up the race card and say, because if you're a white person and you look at something objectively and say, hey, look, maybe there's more to the story here, you're going to be labeled as a racist, because you're supposed to jump on the bandwagon that, white people did something bad and atrocious and this black person was innocent, even though you're saying, look, maybe that's true, maybe that is. But can we wait till we have all the facts? Did this person do something illegal or technically wrong? Not that the person deserved to die or be killed or this and that, but is there something that the person did that could have possibly contributed to the person's death? But it doesn't matter, because if you throw that out there, you're automatically going to be perceived as being racist, and that's not your intent. That wasn't your reasoning for you doing that. You're just saying, look, every story, there's more to it than what we just see in a video that's edited and put on the news. There's more to a story. And the more evidence is presented to us, how much of it is garnered to promote this particular ideology, or how much of it is going to reinforce this particular ideology. Case in point, there was a black child who, I want to say roughly 9 years old, perhaps, who's being interviewed by one of the street reporters out there, and the street reporter asked this child a question. What do you want to do when you grow up? And the child said, a black child said, when I grow up, I want to have a gun. Now, that was the end of the segment. It went right back to the news anchor desk, and there you have the news anchors going, "Ooh, wow, I wasn't expecting that, Oh, okay, wow." And it left the perception that anybody who was watching this newscast, it left the impression with people, white, black, red, yellow, brown, whoever was watching, that a black kid at 9 years old, all he thought about was guns. And then when he became an adult, all he cared about was having a gun. But whoa, slow your roll. There's more to the story. Because the unedited interview was the street reporter continued to ask this child questions that they didn't show on the news. And the follow-up question to that was, why do you want to have a gun when you grow up? And the answer may surprise you. The child said, because when I grow up, I want to be a police officer so I can fight crime. How many of us saw that coming? I can guarantee you I didn't. I figured something was up when they edited the let you hang in on what the child said. I figured there was probably more to the story than there, but I didn't see that coming. I thought maybe he was wanting to get revenge because his dad was killed by somebody, or maybe whatever, or maybe his brother had died being killed by a gangbanger, and maybe he just wanted to be able to defend himself. I didn't think that a 9-year-old black child would say that he wanted to grow up and be a police officer to fight crime. And yet there are a lot of black kids who think that way. But we would never know it because that's not presented to us in the media. All we're presented with is negative stereotypes, negative images, things that reinforce that racial divide. Ultimately, the point I'm making here is that we're being controlled and manipulated through the media. And if you want the truth, you have to do research. And I know that a lot of us, when we were in school, we didn't like doing research. We didn't like being told by our teachers, you need to research this topic for your essay. You're gonna have to probably read a few books. For somebody who doesn't like to read, that's the last thing I want to do. Where's the Cliff Notes at? Where's the movie on this subject? But we become so lazy that we don't want to cross-reference or research. And part of the reason, maybe, perhaps, is because we don't want something that's going to show that we may be in error of our initial judgment. We don't want to look at something that may contradict our views, our values, our morals, our ethics. If you're a person who is highly religious, the last thing you want to hear is something that contradicts your faith. I, a believer in God and Christ, I don't like to hear things that contradict my faith in God. I admit that. But I will listen to what the person says, and I will research it to see if there's any validity in what they say. Why? Because it helps me either become stronger in my faith, or it's going to help me not be stronger in my faith. But because of my faith in God, I always know that God has given me the ability and the wisdom and discernment to understand that if whatever I'm reading, to analyze it, to be able to understand, is this something that is true information, or is this something that is just erroneous information, misinformation? And a lot of times, we as a people, we just kind of go with misinformation. As long as it suits, or as long as it floats our boat, rocks our world, we tend to go with that. We tend to go with things that make sense to us depending on our history, our environmental upbringing, so forth and so on. Racism is something that is taught. It's either taught by your parents or it's taught by your environment, something that you learn through your experiences. And if you don't allow yourself the open-mindedness to go outside that box and to think and say, hey, why is this the way it is? Why is it different here? Or why is it this way here and different somewhere else? Malcolm X learned that lesson when he saw there was a problem within the Nation of Islam and decided to take his Hajj to Mecca and find out for himself about this religion that he embraced and endorsed. And when he got off the plane and through his own admission and his autobiography, he said, look, I saw blue-eyed white people who I thought were devils being arm in arm with people with the same skin color as me or darker, right? You know, dark as night, praying to the same God, having the same beliefs, and realized that racism wasn't just something that was just a white and black problem. It was something that was our nation's problem. It was something that that for whatever reason it was propagated here and promoted and whatever and accepted. That the moral of the story is he learned that people could live together and that people could work together and believe together and have faith together. I don't condone Islam at all. Not a supporter of it. To me, it's a false religion, and I can back that up. But when people of an Islamic faith, or when people of Buddhism, even though these things that are not God or Christian, whatever, but people who are within these faiths do wonderful things and good things that benefit their communities and societies, you have to sit there and accept that why can't we as Christians be more like that? Which is why a lot of people have problems with Christians or Christianity. Because a lot of us who claim to be Christians do not live that Christian walk. That's the reality of it. But this isn't a religious thing. My point being is that we're so fed and inundated with so much misinformation, how do we know what to believe and what to accept anymore? I've tried to the best of my ability, and maybe not good enough, to educate people about this coronavirus, about Agenda 2030, about 5G, but it seems like a lot of people don't want to listen. A few people have caught on and go, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then they start sharing with me information that they've come across. I'm like, great, they're woke. And then there's some people that are just not wanting to hear it. And the Bible says, you know, if they don't want to hear your truth or whatever, you know, you're supposed to wipe the dust off your feet and carry on your way. And I'm stubborn. I'm hard-headed. Because there's some people that I'm like, I'm just trying to hammer it home because I'm like, I want you to get it. I want you to wake up and smell the roses. Quit living in the cesspool. Okay? Wake up to the reality of what's going on. And fight for your civil rights and your liberties and what the Constitution stands for. Quit believing everything the media is out there, because everybody has an agenda, whether it's political, whether it's religious, whatever, whether it's racial, everybody has an agenda. And it's a matter of understanding that agenda, what it implies, what it entails, and you deciding whether or not you want to be part of it. But if you're just going to twiddle your thumbs and just accept whatever you kind of are in line with, and that's your belief system, and you're going to share that, and you're going to propagate it and promote it, and you don't want to think outside the box, then you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And I don't want to let people go. Some of my friends on Facebook who I butt heads with over these issues, I don't want to let them go. They're going to have to unfriend me, or they're going to have to do something that's like really blasphemous to me in order for me to unfriend them. Other than that, they're going to have to kick me to the curb. So I'm a little bit more at liberty to be a little bit more out there with my comments, so to speak, because I'm pushing that envelope. And if it offends you, and you may be that person who's watching this video right now, and if it offends you, it's not my intent to offend you. All I've been trying to do is wake your ass up and realize there's more to what's going on in the world than whatever you're being fed through in the media and on news, and what's being put out there that's caused you to be distracted from the real thing that's going on. Because that's exactly what's happening with you right now, is each and every one of you are being distracted. If it's not games on your iPad or computer, if it's not Pokemon, if it's not Candy Crush, it's probably some kind of reality TV show. If it's not that, it's probably some other show, or Netflix, or Hulu, or Disney Plus. And if it's not that, it's your local news station, or your cable programming, or whatever it is that's got you entertained, misinformed, misaligned, misguided, corrupted, and you don't want anything, you don't want any truth. Now, you might be sitting there going right now, Kevin, you're not saying nothing. We've heard this before from you. You're going to have to give us facts. And all I've ever asked anybody to do is like, you don't have to take my word for it. I'm not acting as an authority on the subject. I'm just saying, look, Google it. Google Dr. Judy Mikovitz. That's Mikovitz. Dr. Judy Mikovitz. As it relates to the coronavirus. A person whose career was ruined by Dr. Anthony Fauci. And she goes into detail explaining about the coronavirus because she's a biologist. She's dealt with AIDS and HIV and Ebola and so forth. So she understands viruses. She understands how they work. She's very highly credible. This is a person you would want in a court of law as an expert witness if it related to the virus or anything that was virus related or science. But obviously, because of people like Anthony Fauci who have done everything they can to undermine her and discredit her and ruin her career, people might say, well, if she's guilty of this or this and the other, then why should I listen to her? If that's your thought process, you're right. You're never going to change. You don't want the truth. You're just willing to take that somebody said something bad about somebody, and because it fits your way of thinking, you're going to go with that without giving somebody a chance to share their side of the story. This is part of the problem. You want this world to be a better place? You do it through your actions. Actions speak louder than words. We have become a world divided. We can't hug one another, embrace one another. We got to stand 6 feet apart from one another. We got to wear a mask. If that doesn't sound satanic, I don't know what does. God was about love and bringing people together. The devil's about tearing us apart. The devil's been about tearing families apart. Look around you. The overall basic family structures are ripped apart. And there will people who will say, well, if you look at it from a racial standpoint, well, it was the white man who broke up the family of black people. I guess you can make an argument for that to a certain point. But at the same time, you have a brain. You have a choice. At some point, why is it that people who claim to come from the same background that you came from, who came from the hood, who came from the ghettos, who came from the barrios, and yet they became successful business people? And they didn't turn to alcohol. They didn't turn to drugs. And they became these athletes that, became the next Michael Jordan or the Kobe Bryants of the world, or the Oprah Winfreys, or whatever. I'm sure they're in touch with racism and all that stuff, but at the same time, they can tell you, white people didn't keep me down. If anything, it probably was that very fuel of fire that made me and motivated me to be the best I could be. And as a result, look at what they became. They became successful business people, entrepreneurs. They didn't sit there and cry, oh, racism has kept me down. I've only made $2 billion this year. Oh my God, white people. Are you serious? You say you can't get into a particular school because of your ethnicity. What's stopping you from going to the library? What's stopping you from getting education on the internet? How do you know what sources to trust on the internet? True. But that's like saying, how do you know what books you should read at the library? True. How should you trust the teachers who are giving you the information? True. That's why you research. You question your sources. And you challenge your sources. And you back it up or you refute it. But the people who are successful in the world today are not sitting there crying me a river routine. Saying, look what the man's doing to keeping me down. You think Denzel Washington, he might get up there and speak at a college, and it's all black college, and then he talk about doing everything he can to lift up black people and so on and so on. And he may talk about racism. Funny how racism made him a box office draw. It's funny how racism made him a pretty damn good actor. It's funny how racism made Oprah Winfrey beloved by many people. I don't care too much about her. I think she's a satanic witch in my opinion, but that's my public opinion, personal opinion. But I can't take away the fact that she's a success. Did Satan bless her? I don't know. Did Satan bless most of these celebrities? Probably. I don't know. But the point is these celebrities who are successful, Obama who becomes president, now some might say white people got him his job. But he was a black president nonetheless, regardless of what you think about him, whether or not you think he's the Antichrist or whether you think he's the best thing since sliced bread. The fact is, you got a black president. He didn't do whole lot for black people, but okay. He's probably the whitest president we've had in a while. But he's not sitting there going, boo-hoo, cry me a river, as a black man, the white man got me down, because he became president. So, the only excuse you have is as far as what's keeping you down, comes down to choices that you make in life. And you have the chance right now, in this time, to stand up for your rights as an American citizen and say, look, I'm tired of being told where I can go, when I can go, what to do, how to do it, what to wear, how to wear it. I want facts. I want truth. I don't want to be lied to. Because what I'm hearing from one side that's being told to me through the media, and then I'm hearing stuff from doctors and police officers and nurses who post their little videos. Some of them probably losing their jobs as we speak because of this. Why should we not listen to them? Why do they become less credible because they're on Instagram or because they're on Facebook? And why should we give more credibility to somebody who's up there at the White House? That's like saying the government, I can trust the government because the government's never lied to me. What? You really truly believe that the government has never ever lied to you? Never given you false information? never manipulated you, never used you as guinea pigs? Because there's a whole bunch of stories out there that you can explore, whether in the library or on the internet. Government deception. It's your choice whether or not you want to go down that rabbit hole or not. But many of you don't want to go down that rabbit hole because you're afraid. You're scared. You're afraid of what you might uncover. So you don't want to, you just kind of want to straddle the fence. You know, you're just like, I'm going to go along with whatever they're doing because they seem to know. They're the ones in control. So they seem to know what's best. That logic right there is what is hurting you and hurting us as a nation. To believe that. To assume that to be true. That's like assuming that every police officer with a badge, he must be right because he's wearing a badge. Does that mean he must be right when he's beating somebody who's unarmed, beating them to a bloody pulp, knocking people out in a wheelchair, shooting people who are unarmed? Even if they committed a crime, you have no right to shoot and kill somebody who's unarmed. You have no right to shoot and kill a person anyway. That's being judge, jury, and executioner. And it's not your job to be the judge or the jury or the executioner. It's not your job to sit there and go, well, I was afraid for my life, so that's why I shot him. If you're afraid for your life, you shouldn't be a police officer. That's like that's like a person who becomes a fireman and says, well, I'm afraid to go into houses that are burning. So why'd you become a fireman? More often than not, people will tell you the reason why they became a fireman because they want to save lives. For people whose childhood dreams to become doctors and nurses was because they wanted to save lives. When people whose childhood dreams become police officers because they want to fight crime. But every one of them grows up. And then some of them, unfortunately, their attitudes change. Some of them want to become doctors because that's where the money's at. Some of them want to become police officers because they like the fact that they can walk around with authority. They can be scared of. They can intimidate. But one thing I can say about firemen, and maybe some of them have egos, I don't know. But for the most part, every fireman I've ever met, they seem to be consistent. They care. And it wasn't about fear. But if your thing about being a police officer is you're afraid that somebody's going to kill you, you shouldn't be a police officer. You shouldn't be motivated by money. But unfortunately, because we live in a capitalistic society, somewhat temporarily, because we're turning into a socialist society, and to Trump's credit, he's kind of threw a wrench into that, which is part of the reason why I think people are going after Trump and trying to undermine him and do this whole thing with the coronavirus thing. They're doing everything they can to undermine him as a president because he wanted to keep it somewhat as a capitalistic society, you know, where people should be able to go out there and create jobs and make money and keep the jobs here and people go back to work and not worry about losing their jobs to illegal aliens or so forth and so on, or illegal immigrants, what have you. You know, this was a guy who talked about protecting the borders for various reasons, and one of them happened to be, even though it got downplayed, because one of the things is with illegal immigrants, when they come into this country, they don't get vaccinated or flu shots or get checked out anyway for any health concerns. And so people come in here, and because of that, they're able to spread whatever viruses or diseases they have, because they came in here and they were undetected. And next thing you know, you got a problem. But people say, well, this didn't come from Mexico. It came from China. I don't give a flying flip where it came from. This is about protecting the borders for various reasons, whether it be criminal gangs or stuff like this. And Trump was trying to do that. But no, because of your hatred towards him for whatever reason, because you think he's a sexist or a misogynist or whatever, and maybe he's all those things. I don't know. Nobody's saying he's a saint. But before this whole coronavirus bullcrap happened, more people were going back to work, and more people were spending. Didn't see a whole lot of that during the Obama or Bush administrations. See a lot of that up to this point. But even through all this, we're still surviving. We're still getting along. We're still pretty strong and resilient. And it's good to see people going out there not wearing their mask and going down to the beach and doing whatever, and basically thumbing their nose at the government saying, look, I'm not a pawn. I'm not a puppet. And dagnabbit, I have rights. I have the right to breathe. And I have the right to talk, and I have the right to express myself. And dagnabbit, you're not going to take that away from me. And unfortunately, many of us are going to die because we're trying to keep those rights from the very people who are trying to take those rights away. And if you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you. I can't say it enough. And a police officer is going to lose his job because he wanted to share with the people his take on the coronavirus and what he sees day to day, and try to tell you that, hey, a lot of this stuff is bogus. It's not real. Don't know why you're being fed this misinformation. And he doesn't want people to feed into this hysteria of this nonsensical scamdemic. And a good cop is going to lose his job. And maybe more. But it's good to see people who are willing to take a stand because of their moral consciousness. Their moral consciousness is greater than their economic ego. But anyway, just wanted to elaborate on that. If you want to know more about the police officer, you can look him up. I don't know his name, but you can probably look him up on YouTube. Police officer who talks out about coronavirus. There's a couple of them actually, but one of them just posted a recent video where is the aftermath where apparently he's been suspended. But there was at least 2 police officers that had talked out about it. And you can Google them and look them up on YouTube. And I really recommend you look into Dr. Judy Mikovitz and listen to her story about the coronavirus and Anthony Fauci. And then draw your own conclusions, you know. And some of you are going to be convinced that she's right and he's wrong. And some of you are not going to be convinced. Some of you still going to believe Dr. Fauci just because he's up there on TV, because he's the one speaking in the White House. I don't know about you, but I don't trust people in the White House. Not a lot of people I trust. Because they really don't care about us. And if you think they do, you're the epitome of deaf, dumb, and blind. They're all about what benefits them, not about what benefits us. And you might have a few people in government who, just like those young kids who desire to be doctors and nurses and police officers, you might have a few of those people who are in the Senate who were those once kids who wanted to be part of the government process because they cared about the Constitution, because they wanted to fight for our rights. They wanted to help the little man get on his feet and be successful. And hopefully that's true. Because that's the people that we need in government. People who remember when they were children and remember what it's like when freedom meant something to somebody. It's all about choices we make. I don't make a lot of great choices. I do some pretty stupid things. Lord knows I do some pretty stupid things. And I say some pretty dumb things. But I don't give a flying flip whether or not you like it. because that's my freedom. But even I understand that it is my civic responsibility as a human being and moral responsibility to care about what I say as it may affect you. I don't always control my language. Sometimes I'm very profane. I hate that about myself. I hate to hear other people profane. I hate it more than me saying it. I hate it to hear other people say it. I don't like to see people smoke cigarettes. I don't like to see people drink alcohol. I don't like to see people get tattoos. I don't like to see a lot of people do a lot of things. But you have the right to do it. And who am I to tell you not to do it? I can say don't do it for this reason. I can give you a friendly suggestion, or I can give you a moral reason, or an ethical reason, or a godly reason. But aside from that, who am I to tell you and dictate to you what you can or cannot do? It's your body. As long as you don't hurt anybody else in the process. I don't care what you watch. I don't care what you do in your private time. I don't care what porn you watch. I don't care what it is that rocks your world. As long as you don't hurt nobody. If the only person you're hurting is yourself, whether it be mentally, socially, psychologically, whatever, that's between you and whatever you believe in or not believe in. It is not for us to challenge you or to question you or to validate or to criticize. That's God's job, not ours. I've done some pretty vulgar things in my life, things I'm ashamed of to this day. I've admitted some of them on Facebook a long time ago, and it scares me. But sometimes I believe sometimes you have to open up and reveal your sins and your things to kind of give your body a breath of fresh air, even though you might lose friends in the process. You might get people looking at you in a different light. But sometimes it's about inner healing as opposed to outer judgment. Don't care what you think of me. Some of you might like me for the person I am. Maybe some of you think that I've been a good person to you or from experiences that we've had in the past. Maybe some of you might think I'm talented, and that's all fine and good. Whatever reason you may like me, and some of you out there may not like me for whatever reasons. I understand that. I'm like a Jekyll and Hyde to a lot of different people. You put me in a room with 10 different people, you're probably going to get 10 different responses. But every one of them will say, the one thing I can say about Kevin Badway is he shoots straight from the hip, he tells it like it is, and he doesn't care what the outcome is, because he's always going to speak with a truthful heart. You've heard the saying, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. You can't bullshit me. And I try not to bullshit you. I just want you to wake up and pay attention to what's going on in the world. Put down your Candy Crush. Put down your games. Do a little knowledge searching. Look it up. Whatever you're into, If you want to learn about history, search it. But if you want to know what's going on in the world today, if you want to know about what Agenda 2030 is and what 5G and what its effects are on the human body, research it. If you want to know if the coronavirus is real, research it. If you want to know about Dr. Judy Mikovitz, research her. Look her up. Because these things are important in this day and age. Because we live in a time where if we don't act now, we are going to live to regret it. And one day, after blowing me off and after blowing everybody else off, when the crap hits the fan, you're going to sit there and go, I heard somebody tell us about this. I should have been better prepared. But by then it's too late. And it may be too late now. But right now, while you still have breath in your body, while you still have the ability to protest and to say, look, this is wrong, I demand that we get the truth. I want to know why Dr. Judy Mikovitz is not the person who's telling us about this virus and the reality of it. Why are you keeping her from us? Why are you keeping this information from us? Why are you telling us not to talk about boosting the immune system? Why? It's okay to ask why. But when they're not answering your question, that's when you start looking for it for yourself. You can do it. If Rob Schneider was here, I wish I could have him pop in and goes, you can do it. You can do it. And if you have questions, ask. Somebody's out there got the answers. You may leave a comment for me and say, Kevin, where did you get this about Dr. Judy Mikovitz? Where did you get this information about 5G? Where did you get this, that, and the other? And I say, well, I found it on Instagram on this page, or I found it on YouTube on this page, or I found it on this whatever. But you know, it's funny to me how you ask these questions when you could just Google it and ask the Google bar questions and then look at the answers it comes up with. And then if that one video doesn't go along with what I'm saying, it was like, well, how come this video doesn't go along with what Kevin? Trust me, you keep going through the videos, you're going to find one that corresponds with what I'm saying. But then you might say, well, why should I go with that video? You don't have to go with that video. It's just the one that made the most sense to me because it had nothing to gain from posting it. It had nothing to gain from advertisers. It had nothing to gain from being controversial. It had nothing to gain from anything except just trying to share with you the truth. And if it went viral or if it got advertisements, well, that's part of the game, isn't it? That's part of what happens, especially if it goes viral. But whatever the case is, a lot of these people who post this information out there have no agenda, have no reason, except just to try to share that information with you, like I'm doing right now. Just trying to let you know that, look, if you want the truth to what's going on, quit trusting your media sources, quit trusting Facebook, quit trusting Instagram, quit trusting all these different sources. If you find it on Instagram and Facebook, that's fine and good. I'm not questioning that. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying, but if it's something that challenges your ideology or belief, look into it. Watch the video. And then say, well, what does somebody else have to say with it? The only way you're going to learn two sides of an argument is if you check out both sides. And more often than not, you might find there's three sides to the argument. Which one do you choose? The one that makes the most sense? The one that has the most logic? The one that has the most facts? You can have a lot of facts and be lying through your teeth. Hello? I can give you a lot of facts. But it's how I manipulate those facts that can get you to believe in something totally different than what the actual truth is. So you have to be careful about the facts you get. Seems like hard work, I understand. Because it has to make you think about things. You have to use that logical part, that rational reasoning part that a lot of non-believers claim they have, that they don't often use very well. You need to tap into that. It's okay to question the source. Do some background on it. Or the person that's giving it, learn what their name is, what their background is, what their education is, what their studies were. And I believe that hopefully that will help put your mind at ease, if that's what it takes, in order before you accept whatever to be valid in the way you understand things relevant to what's going on in the world today. that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that this police officer doesn't lose his job. If you watch any of his videos and you find out who he is, please support the guy. I believe he's in Seattle, Washington. This particular police officer that I'm referencing. It sounds like he's doing okay. But man, to be fired from a job that you love to do, and a person obviously cared about people while doing his job, which is very rare for us to hear about police officers, support him. Do whatever you can to give this guy, your appreciation, and somehow contact his local law enforcement and say, hey, look, we need more guys like this. Don't lose this guy. This is what helps lessen the divide between the police and citizens when you have police officers that actually do care about the people they serve and protect like they're supposed to do. Anyway, this is Kevin Badway signing off. I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to comment, hate if you want to. I don't care. Troll if you want to. I know there's going to be a few of them. Or ask questions. Live, learn, and love. That's all I can say. Peace out. Good night.